This is Franchise Today, brought to you by FRM Solutions, providers of the best-in-class software solutions for franchise relationship management. Franchise Today is your destination for weekly information, conversations, and interviews with accomplished industry leaders, all of whom share best practices for sustainable growth and sensible franchising. Here now, your host, Stan Friedman, to kick off this week's podcast.
Today is Wednesday, October 26th. I'm Stan Friedman, and this is Franchise Today. Well, how great was it last week? Seeing some old friends and franchise family right here in the ATL at the Franchise Update Leadership and Development Conference. Without doubt, this was the best attended FLDC I can ever remember, and I've been attending these events since the very beginning, some 23 years ago. I hope, too, that last week you downloaded and listened to my interview featuring a new voice on the franchise front with this month's rising star of franchising, Super Bowl champion Ben Utecht. Ben was a starting tight end for Tony Dungy's Super Bowl winning Indianapolis Colts when they beat the Chicago Bears in Super Bowl 41. Today, Ben is charged with responsibility for brand and culture development at Conquer Ninja Gyms and has actually doubled down on his commitment to the brand as he's also a Conquer Ninja Gyms franchisee. I'm certain that his transferable skills from executing on the field will lead Ben to many more championships both as a franchisor and as a franchisee. Today, we shift gears in terms of topic, and our conversation is focused more on issues surrounding HR and staffing, but with quite a twist. In fact, this could be the most important episode of Franchise Today I've ever presented in terms of transformation as pertains to recruitment, administration, and retention of frontline employees. Today we'll hear from Eve Nasby and Aziz Badra, President and CEO respectively at Band of Hands. So don't go away.
Franchise Today will be right back, but first, a word from our sponsors.
Hey, franchisors of restaurants, bars, grills, and taverns, and multi-unit franchisees, listen up. This message is for you. Atmosphere TV wants to help you cut costs on overpriced cable TV for your business and either replace it completely or partially if sports programming is essential at your locations. What Atmosphere TV provides are 100% free programming options with more than 50 channels of highly engaging and entertaining programming that is audio optional and guaranteed to please your customers and even increase their average ticket per visit. So here's how it works. Atmosphere hooks you up with an Apple TV HD receiver loaded with more than 50 channels of fully licensed, no cost to you, fun and lifestyle programming. These channels include Jive and Red Bull TV, bloopers, superhuman feats, and an array of viewing options that don't require sound to be enjoyed. And this offer is not just limited to restaurants or bars. No, any business with a TV screen in its waiting room can benefit from Atmosphere's free programming offer as well. So what are you waiting for? Cut the cord on overpriced cable and get Atmosphere TV with its 100% free, engaging, and entertaining programming options. Keep your guests happy while they wait to see you instead of watching the clock and their wait times. Chiropractors, doctors, dentists, auto repair shops, anyone with TVs in your waiting rooms, jump onto this amazing offer today. And if you text the word franchise to 474747, Atmosphere will waive the $100 setup fee for the Apple TV HD receiver that they'll ship to you as well at no cost. Atmosphere TV, changing the way businesses view television. Find them online at atmosphere.tv, and remember, text franchise to 474747 for the no-charge Apple receiver. Cut the cord and get rid of cable today with Atmosphere TV. Employment laws are complex things, and non-compliance is costly. Band of Hands partners with franchisors and their franchisees to assure that they're not hit with potential legal and financial consequences such as unpaid wages and benefits, fines, penalties, and, in extreme cases, being shut down. For years now, franchising has struggled with classification issues like AB5 in California. Well, Band of Hands is your complete solution to that and many more HR problems. They are your complete AB5 solution. And here to tell us how is Aziz Badra, founder and CEO, along with Band of Hands president, recruitment and HR pro, Eve Nasby. They're both here to tell us all about it. Aziz Badra and Eve Nasby, welcome to Franchise Today.
Thank you for having us, Stan.
Welcome, guys. Glad you're here.
Thank you. So it's really interesting that, and I'm going to let Aziz tell you about how we got started and his great idea. I know he credits a lot of our success to the team, but really it was his brainchild, if you will, that got us all started. But as we began to iterate through the growth of our organization from a 1099 platform to a W-2 platform, we were looking at the small businesses across the United States and looking at various pockets of them to really determine where we could make the most impact, where we could help the most people succeed in their business. And that's when the franchise community literally found us. And I'll let Aziz tell you all about that.
So, Stan, we've built this platform to help the small business person. The bottom line is the most complicated part of running a business is the employment piece. Trying to keep up. I could walk into any business here in California and probably any state in the nation, and the small business person is in one way or another not compliant. And so as we started to switch over, as Eve said, from our 1099 platform, which we were doing very well and I'm very happy with, to the W-2 platform because of the new AB5 law, what was new at the time in California, we had two options. One was tuck tail and run and get out of California completely, which I'm glad we didn't, because now 17 other states, and thank you for the article you sent me, now it's being taken all the way up to the Department of Labor level, where they're going to minimize and go after independent contractor usage as much as possible. And so because we had put so much time, effort, and money into building our platform for a 1099, and Eve has over 30 years of experience, we decided if we're going to do W-2, we're going to go in with both boots, right? And so we've decided that if we are going to create this alternative, then let's create this turnkey system. But most importantly, it has to be cost effective, because you could go out and get the similar services from other companies, but you're not going to get the same abilities. You're not going to have the same opportunities to share employees. You're not going to have the same cost basis, because the companies that are out there that are doing similar things are what you call your PEOs. And that's a very different animal. So we decided, let's get into this. Let's create this turnkey method of employment. And as Eve said, that's where we started to find through some of the Eat the Frog franchises, Mike, and then our introduction into Jesse, and then Jesse's introduction into you. That's where we kind of got in, fell into the whole franchising world. Because, I mean, typically what is franchise? People tap into a franchise because they want a track record, they want a proven system and a method and so forth. And what we found was all of these franchisors, they have that. They're going to give you the SOPs, the training, the uniforms, the menus. They're going to give you everything that you need in order to be successful. But what we found was what they don't give you is anything when it comes to employment. It's kind of like, that's your thing. You deal with the employees. And so nobody was offering them this turnkey kind of employment apparatus or solution or platform. And that's what we decided. This is exactly what we're doing. And that's kind of how we backed into the parking space of franchising, as opposed to actively going out and looking for it. We kind of fell into it, as Eve said.
So let's unpack this a little further, because in the franchise world and you in the HR world, we tend to talk inside talk with acronyms that we're familiar with and conversant with every day. But the people we're talking with, not so much. So let's back up to where we started this segment. And for those who may have lived under a rock for the last who knows how long, just explain the differences, if you will, between the 1099 versus W-2 scenario.
So you have your 1099 contractors, which you issue them a 1099 at the end of the year. They are independent. They are not your employee. They're working for you, but they're working for you on a project basis or as just simply an independent contractor. Now, your employees are your employees. These are people that are working for you. They are on your payroll, and they are fully your responsibility. And you're also responsible for all the proper compliance, all the human resources, all the time and attendance, anything and everything, payroll taxes, payroll, everything that comes with employment, you're now responsible for. So California made that shift to get away from independent contractors, because the bottom line is it was your Uber and your Lyft and some of the different companies like that, where you have tens of thousands of independent contractors that are maybe taking advantage of the tax law and writing off as much as possible. Whereas by shifting or forcing the movement from 1099 to W-2, it puts the burden or the onus onto the employer to collect those taxes and remit them to the state. So it makes it much more easier for the state, but now you're employing those people as opposed to using them as bring somebody in to do some computer work, and when they're done, you write them a check and hand it to them and you're done. Now you have to actually employ those people.
I appreciate the backstory, Aziz, so that people can get a better understanding of what this is all about. You know, IFA in their government relations department has been wrestling these alligators for years in California, and now as it spreads across the country, if you've not encountered these problems yet, buckle up. Quite likely this is going to be heading your way somewhere in the not-too-distant future. You talked, too, about Jesse, and the audience really doesn't know who we're referring to, so let me enlighten on that note, too. Jesse Curry is somebody I've known since I started in franchising way back when. And back in those days, we were both in franchise development. We'd meet up several times a year at shows and expos, and we'd always compare notes on what lead sources are working for you, what are you using, I'd share what I'm using. If I heard from Jesse about something he was using for lead gen that was working better for him than what I was doing, well, I wouldn't take a moment's hesitation to say, hey, I'm going to try that too. And the same was true about Jesse coming to me and telling me about Band of Hands. I had no idea what he was talking about. I had no idea what this company could do. But just like my trust in Jesse and lead gen, he was convinced of the reality of the concept and what this company is able to do unlike any other. And so I decided to discover a little more and learn a little more. And now I'm convinced, too, that staffing companies, payroll companies, PEOs all do similar things, but nobody can do the one thing that Band of Hands does that is so unique. And so we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to unpack that so that we understand how employees can make lateral moves horizontally across companies that they work for, still get one W-2 working singularly for a Band of Hands who represents some of those other companies that the payroll people can be working for. You and Eve are here to dive into that today, and let's start with that. What do you say?
Sure, be happy to. So you typically have two options, Stan, when it comes to hiring. You can call a staffing company and you can pay the markup, meaning if that person is, you're going to be paying them $15 an hour, that staffing company is going to charge you $25 to $30 an hour to help you find those people. So staffing, for the most part, is not an option when you're talking about small businesses. And 90% of the businesses in the country are small businesses, 20 employees and under, which pretty much encompasses most of your franchises. The other option is a PEO. Now, a PEO is a professional employment organization. What they do is they come into your business and they handle all aspects of employment, but yet you are still the employer. So when it comes to unemployment claims, you're going to get the letter from the unemployment office. When it comes to a slip and fall for a workers' comp claim, you're going to have to handle that because you are still the liable or the responsible party for those people. What we have created, we didn't do anything that wasn't already out there, right? Like Uber did not create ride hailing. Uber did not create the desire for a ride or the need for a ride. What they did was they just used technology and they overlaid it over the ride hailing industry, and they created a tremendous business by organizing. And that's exactly what we're doing. But we've become this hybrid. So we're not a staffing company and we're not a PEO. We're a hybrid of a little bit of both. We don't do the recruiting that the staffing companies do, but we still help you find people by utilizing our in-house and our own technology to take your jobs and bring you people. But more importantly, we take the employees and they are our employees. So what happens is, let's say you have a multiple unit franchisee who has 4 or 5 or 6 different franchises of a whatever company. Let's just use as an example a Subway. With Band of Hands, you can now take those employees and you can move them seamlessly from one location to another and utilize them on a macro level as opposed to individually per store. And that works out really well, especially this day and age, because COVID has completely obliterated the employment market. And I know people listening to me know exactly what I'm talking about. I went to a Panera the other day for lunch. There was a line out the door. There was a big line of people waiting to pick up the food. And when I finally got to the counter, the woman said, "I'm sorry, we're very short-handed. We have to close the drive-through, so it's going to be a while." This is what the reality, this is what people are facing. But when you're working with Band of Hands and you have multiple units where you have a store that might not be so busy, you can move your employees around. And that's very unique because you can't do that with a PEO. A PEO can come in and they'll handle your employees, but they stay within your business. But with us, they can move around to your other location, which is great for you as the business owner. And it's really great for the worker because now that worker, a couple different things comes into play. More hours, under one W-2 and under one paycheck. So it makes it very convenient for them. But then there's also benefits. And I'll roll the benefits over to Eve because that's a huge retention play for the franchisees, for their people.
Before you do, Aziz, I'm curious, given that my audience is comprised mostly of franchisors, how do you help this audience understand how to present the value or even how to act on the value proposition that you and Eve are sharing with us today? Given that most of the time anymore, these franchisors might be afraid of towing over the lines and being perceived as getting too involved in Z issues. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, I think that we are that beautiful partnership and also a layer of protection, if you will, between the franchisor and the franchisee. When you join a franchise, you get business in a box, as Aziz alluded to at the top of this interview, but they don't get employees in a box. And that's what we're bringing is this concept of employees in a box to the franchisee. And also that box is like a pad that you can punch, right? Because we are the intermediary between the franchisor and the franchisee because we are the employer of record for the employees of that franchise, right? And so what franchisors can lean on us for is help in selling more franchises. Because when you go to someone and you say, hey, Aziz, how would you like to buy an Eat the Frog franchise? The first thing Aziz is going to say is, do I really want to be an employer in the state of California or in the state of Michigan or Pennsylvania, or just in general? Do I really want to be an employer? You've got wage and hour issues. You've got employee tardiness. You've got benefits. You've got challenges, right? Do I really want to be an employer? Well, guess what, Mr. Potential Franchisee? You don't have to be an employer now to own a franchise. And so the franchisors that we've spoken to and consultants for franchises that we've been speaking to are doing backflips because they see immediately we are now able to help them sell more franchises because there's no liability for them to be an employer when it comes to having all these employees coming at them. They don't have to deal with wage and hour lawsuits. They don't have to deal with sexual harassment. That doesn't mean that ultimately somewhere, somehow down the road, they won't be pulled into court. But guess what? We are that first nose that they're going to punch, if you will. Also, recruitment and retention of those workers. We don't know where all the workers have gone. We can speculate, but that's a political conversation. With the benefits that we're offering that we're not charging the clients for, those clients can now say, those franchises can now say, hey, we offer medical, dental, vision, 401k. And now these folks who can't get benefits because perhaps they're only a part-time employee can now get benefits through us at no additional charge to the company, right? So there's a recruitment strategy behind that. There's a retention strategy behind that. And those are just a few of the reasons why franchisors today are loving the partnership they've got with Band of Hands.
Tell you what, let's do. Let's take a brief break right here, and then when we come back, let's take a deeper dive into some of the advantages that Band of Hands brings to your franchise development opportunities. We're talking today with Eve Nasby and Aziz Badra, President and CEO of Band of Hands, and we'll be right back.
Franchise Today will be right back, but first, a word from our sponsors.
We are all familiar with Vistage, YPO, and EO. Well, now comes Zor Forum, a somewhat similar type of executive group, but this one comes with a twist. Zor Forum groups are exclusively for franchisors. Imagine a peer group for sharing and networking on a platform built exclusively for franchise executives. Zor Forum members are afforded unparalleled access to best practices and some of the brightest minds within the franchising world through regular meetings and a dedicated communications platform. In this post-COVID world, a franchise-specific mastermind or peer group is an endeavor worth making time for. Zor Forum groups of 6 to 10 will bring leaders together that are in similar situations, but with exclusivity in terms of their competitive sets, so that each can openly help others benefit from their respective knowledge, perspective, and experience with no fear of competitive loss. Network, learn, strategize, and remain motivated along your journey. Join a peer group, not just any peer group. Join the only one designed for emerging franchisors. Join Zor Forum. Learn more at zorforum.com. That's www.zorforum.com. And today's conversation continues with Eve Nasby and Aziz Badra of Band of Hands, a truly unique organization in human resources, PEO staffing and payroll, and we left off discussing a really unique value add to their services, which stretch all the way into franchise recruitment. Let's pick back up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. As the word is getting out that we are helping franchisors sell more franchisees, consultants are now getting excited about it, right? And so we've had two high-level consultants that have deeply interviewed us. They wanted to understand everything that we bring to the table. And after they completely understood and the lights went on, they have now added us to their 10-step program of how to buy a franchise. And so we're step number 2 for one of those consultants. And that is a very exciting piece for us because now we get to handhold. There was a brand new franchise owner in Tennessee, and they were so excited because we literally held their hand through finding employees and onboarding those employees, and the employees that they already had, which were friends and family, got the white glove treatment with us to onboard. And so this new franchise owner, all they need to worry about now is bringing people through their door. They don't have to worry about their employees or anything, right? They just focus on their financial success, and we're behind the scenes doing everything else. That's why these consultants are so excited, because they say the biggest stumbling block to being a franchise owner. And so now the franchisors are excited because we're really, as they say, greasing the skids for them to sell more franchises.
You know, if I'm a multi-unit franchisee and or a prospect thinking about further development, I may be thinking too about sitting things out for a while, perhaps until after the midterm elections or even Q1 next year or beyond, before thinking further about developing and opening more stores, not knowing how to staff them. In this new post-COVID political environment, those are very real considerations for franchise prospects or area developers. I think in that regard, you guys can be disruptive game changers. I mean, it seemed to me that hourly employees would be less inclined to leave for a few dollars an hour more if, working through Band of Hands, they can work at any number of locations during the course of a week, bringing what would have been perhaps 2 or 3 part-time jobs to a 30-hour full-time opportunity, which then yields benefits. A few dollars an hour then suddenly doesn't seem as important as it otherwise might. Would you agree?
Yeah, can I add something to that? I'd like to lob this over to Aziz, but real fast. Yeah, so I have been, when Aziz says I have been doing this for 30 years, what this means is recruiting. I have worked for, right now, billion-dollar companies. I know how to do this. I know how people think, and I know what makes a successful recruiter. And right now, and I know what employee wants, right? And what employees want is how recruiters can sell them on taking a job. What employees want now, which is very different from what they wanted 30 years ago, is flexibility. And I hear it every single day. I read it on all the publications I get. Employees want flexibility. And I'm going to let Aziz tell you why our platform offers the ultimate flexibility that nobody else out there is offering, and why employees are excited to be on our platform.
You know, Stan, when a franchisee loses an employee, I know everybody can relate to this, it's typically because they found something better. They found something more accommodating. They found something that fits their schedule better than what you as the franchisee are offering them. What we do is we're changing the game. We're changing employment, right? The binary nature of I work for you, Stan, or I no longer work for you. We're changing how that operates. So this allows the employee, because they're employed by Band of Hands, it allows them to work at multiple different locations at the same time. And so that really gives them what they're looking for. And it keeps the employees with you because, as Eve mentioned about the benefits, if you think about it, you need 30 hours or more to qualify for benefits. If you're using a bunch of part-time people, none of them are getting benefits. But if you're using a part-time person, that's also you working at other places part-time. Now, collectively, they are getting the benefits that we provide for them because they're getting more than 30 hours per week. So the whole nature of how people operate, how business operates from the employment side has really changed. It's no longer that binary, I'm going to quit or I'm going to start working. You don't have to worry about that. You can bring in a person without having to deal with any documentation. Think about how easy that'll make your life as an employer. You could bring in anybody off our platform. They can walk in and clock in same day and go right to work. And you don't have to worry about the I-9 and the W-2s and all the documentation, all the paperwork that comes with employing, and not just initially for hiring, but also maintaining all that paperwork when you become audited by one of the state agencies that want to see all of that paperwork. paperwork. We're responsible for all of that because, as I've said before, the ugly twin sister of success is you become a very busy employer, and you're no longer, as Eve said, you're no longer working in your business, you're working on your business. When you're an employer, you're busy behind the scenes, you're not participating in the business, you're busy managing the business. We removed that. So now you can continue to do what you love to do. And the reason you got into the franchise business to begin with is to grow your business.
So let me ask something for further clarification, which I think has caused a light bulb to flash for me that's taking something that already sounded great and making it sound better still than I thought. If I understand correctly, I could be a multi-unit franchisee here in Atlanta. I could be flying 6 or 7 or 8 different flags of different brands with several locations, and I can be drawing my employees, my frontline employees, from your database. Those same employees may also be serving and working for other franchisees of similar, same, or other flags and brands, and all of us collectively are benefiting from the fact that they are all employed by band of hands. They're trained by us to operate in our particular businesses, wearing our uniforms during the appropriate hours that they're behind our counters, but they could be behind the counters of other franchised multi-unit owners. And the hours that they work in my stores are cumulatively added to the hours that they're working for others, bringing them to that threshold of 30 hours and benefits eligible. If that's the case, this is brilliant, Aziz.
Absolutely. That's exactly what we're talking about. So that macro view of employment doesn't work just for you and your 3 or 4 locations. You could have, as you just mentioned, you could have other franchisees that have multiple units, and that pool just extends to everybody. So now you can keep one person that is trained at working at one brand, and they can work at anybody's different restaurant within that brand that are on our platform. So it really makes everybody's life easier because you're choosing from a pool of people who are A, already employed by us, so there's no paperwork, and B, there's no training involved because they've already been trained for that particular brand.
Well, this just takes your value proposition to a whole new level. Here in Atlanta, for example, the Southeast Franchise Forum's collective body of membership, comprised of franchisees, franchisors, and suppliers, could all pool their labor and benefit one way or the other, I would guess. And the same with the Georgia Restaurant Association and state restaurant associations around the country. And no need to stop with just restaurants. This could work across all kinds of retail establishments, couldn't it?
That's absolutely accurate. And I'll take it a step further. The whole COVID, what it's done to the economy is changed the nature of how people work. And the problem with a lot of the hiring that we're seeing companies and small companies trying to do, Stan, is they're still looking for 3 people to work 8 hours a day in their fast food chain or something like that. And they're not finding those people. They're having a very difficult time finding those people because the nature of that is those kind of people are, I don't know where they went. Like they just disappeared out of the workforce. But what we're finding now with our companies that are joining us is instead of having 3 people working full time, you may have 8 people working part time. So that gives you a little bit more peace of mind. That ensures that you have depth in your position. So you have more people that you can reach out to. And when you start to increase that pool that you're talking about to not just a particular franchisee, but to multiple unit franchisees, that pool just starts to grow and it helps the franchisees quite a bit. And it also makes for a much better work environment for the workers as well, because now they're getting as many hours as they want because they're setting their schedule, that flexibility that Eve talked about. But just as importantly, or more importantly, they're working under one W-2. So now your workers, whether they're applying for a car loan, a home loan, or a credit card or an apartment, now they're showing singular employment and they're showing more hours and they have one W-2. So it makes their life, so it's truly a win-win scenario for all involved.
How does the back end of all this work, Aziz, when you've got one employee that may be working for 4 or 5 different franchise brands across different ownership groups? One of those brands may be paying $15 an hour, another $14.75, another one $15 plus, and they may be doing multiple jobs in different positions. So where's the matrix and the management of all of that, and how is it managed?
Well, that's where the magic of the millions of dollars we put into our software comes into play, Stan. Our software When they clock in and clock out, it knows exactly where they are, which company they're clocking in for, what is the rate for that particular business. We track all of that through our software. So if somebody works at two different locations in one day, or they may work at the same location, let's put it this way: you may be a fry cook and earning X amount of dollars, and then you move to the counter and you're making $1 less. You can actually clock in, clock out, and we track both positions and both pay rates depending on the job description and the type of job that it is for that dollar amount. We track all that, and then it all goes on to the same paycheck. So that's our worry.
So before I ask you for contact info, Aziz, Eve, what have I not asked you today that you wished I might have?
I'll let you go first, Eve.
You're so gracious.
Thank you.
Wait. What have you not asked us? You were very thorough in your interview. I just want to reiterate that these are very different, very challenging, very trying times for both the employer and the employee. And we are the solution. The political climate is a tailwind for us. What the laws that are being passed all over the nation are becoming a tailwind for us. And so when you, small business owner, when you franchise or are facing these headwinds, when you jump into our boat, you will be facing that and having all these challenges as a tailwind. You know, there have been people that we've spoken to, just like you, Stan, who have had their light bulb go off and they say, oh my gosh, you guys are just like the Amazon of employment. You know, we've got employees on demand. Your own employees, as we just talked about, can be a fluid workforce, which just flows seamlessly between locations. But you've got this on-demand workforce where you now no longer need to place an ad, filter through resumes. You know, we've got these people on our platform that already have their 5 stars. They already have their resume. They already have their food handler's card, right? And you literally just push a button and hire them and they show up. So I just want to emphasize the simplicity of what we have developed and just the fact that we really can help you and your franchises succeed.
And is it safe to assume that you've got collateral material to help convince a franchisor's legal counsel, either in or outside, that all of this is safe and okay?
Yes, we absolutely do. We have all the collateral material, Stan. And I'll add one more thing to what you did ask us, but I just want to reiterate something. I'm sure the franchisors that are listening to us speak today, I'm sure every one of them at some point has received a call from a franchisee, because there's typically 2 types of franchisees, as I understand it. You have your retired school teacher, your retired fireman, or someone who's getting into business for the first time, or you have the multiple unit individual who owns several different brands or different flags, as you say. They ultimately are going to get the unemployment claim. They're ultimately going to get the workers' comp claim. And your first-time business owners are going to call whom? They're going to call you, the franchisor, and say, hey, I got this letter. Hey, I got this claim. I'm not sure what to do. The simplicity, as Eve said, the benefit, one of the main benefits of dealing with Band of Hands, your franchisee will never see those letters or those claims because they come to us, which means you will never get a phone call from someone saying, what am I supposed to do now? You don't have to field that. Our entire goal is to make your franchisees more successful, because ultimately, if we can make the franchisees more successful, it makes the brand much more successful.
Well, there's nothing left for me to do but ask for contact info, as I'm certain you're going to get busy very, very soon.
We'd love to talk to all the franchisors out there and the franchisees. We have several franchisors now that are, as Eve said, they're making us part of their package because we are that turnkey employment piece. So please feel free to reach out to us. Eve's going to give the phone number.
So you can reach me directly, 619-244-3000, 619-244-3000. Also, we have created a landing page for you. Simply go to www.bandofhands.com. That's www.bandofhands.com/franchises, FRANCHISES, bandofhands.com/franchises, or just give me a call, 619-244-3000.
Or feel free to send an email out to Eve. It's just EVE@bandofhands, or you can send it to me at Aziz, AZIZ, @bandofhands. We'd be happy to communicate with you and answer any questions that you have. So please reach out.
And please do put a .com on either of those email addresses to assure that either Aziz or Eve get them.
Thank you for pointing that out, Stan. Yeah, it's Aziz@bandofhands.com or Eve@bandofhands.com. Thank you, Stan.
This has been thoroughly enlightening, a great conversation. I thought I had my head around this completely before, but light bulbs went off today and will continue to fire off, I'm certain. So it's going to take a little time for you to digest all of this. If you're listening as a Z or ZOR, a multi-unit franchisee, a multi-flag portfolio company, or a multi-unit operator, there's something here for everyone.
Well, thank you, Stan. You are a legend in this industry, and we are absolutely honored and thrilled to be a part of this podcast. So thank you again.
Well, that's it for today. I'm back again next Wednesday when we do it all again. Until then, I'm Stan Friedman wishing you the best, the very best of all things franchising, and Franchise Today is out.
Franchise Today is a production of FRM Solutions, providing best-in-class CRM tools to empower relationships with prospective and existing franchisees. No excuses, just solutions. Find them online at frmsolutions.com. Join Stan every Wednesday at noon Eastern for another live episode of Franchise Today. Or, as always, download episodes on demand at blogtalkradio.com or iTunes.
When it's PCS time, you know the drill. Pack, research the new base, get the kids in school, because family supports family. At American Public University, we support military families with flexible, affordable online education that moves with you. As a military spouse, your tuition rate is the same as your partner's, just $250 per credit hour. American Public University, education that moves with you. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.